he feels his concerns are valid. So he takes Sumitra to see Abhimanyu and he tells him, your fates are tied. Okay, but he says, if possible, don't dwell on it.
Yes.
No, okay.
So that's it.
It's very intense, this story, so I'm not surprised.
I like the way you refer to Krishna as the Dark Lord.
As the dark.
It's very interesting. It almost reminded me in another way of Harry Potter, but in a different way. So it was like he also prophesizes about the future, prophesizes the doom, and he's called the Dark Lord. So there are different nuances in the book which appeal to different people.
There's a reason for the Dark Lord also, because I love that Krishna and Draupadi were very dark, not just dusky. The color of the night sky is they were dusky, Dravidian dark, and they were considered the most good-looking people of all time. And when I did the Mahabharata series for YouTube, we had some creatives and some illustrations for and they would always paint Krishna and Draupadi blue. And I will say, have you met any blue people? I haven't, outside of Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, by the way. And even that I found it very annoying. I'm like, why blue? What's wrong with black? And they were saying, are you sure? Because nobody can even think of dark skinned people being so beautiful. I said, no, I want dusky Krishna and Draupadi, because that's they say they had the hue of the fabled blue lotus, but that is practically indigo. So we should celebrate that. And it's so problematic that we equate white with good, and fair with beautiful.
Absolutely.
Fair and lovely. All the matrimonials wanted white, fair. It's ridiculous. We should celebrate that dark skin is beautiful. Why should we slather it with fairness creams?
yes.
So which is why I refer to him as the Dark Lord,
Yes, I
the
know.
handsome, sexy Krishna.
Yes. So it's very nice. It's really, I love the way you put that across.
As you mentioned Sumitra, and one of the best things about the book was how each character is written with a lot of thought. Even if there is a brief mention for somebody like Karn's son, you have fleshed out the characters very well. What I think is that Subhadra's character was a quite anchor in the novel. So, when writing about Abhimanyu from a maternal gaze, did it change how you approached heroism? Because he was a son to Subhadra first and then a hero.
I'm a feminist. I'm a proud feminist. I just find it very annoying that in 2025 there are so many people, so many women who will say, I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist. And I feel, why do I have to clarify in 2025 that feminism is about equal rights? It's not about giving an unfair advantage to any gender. We all know that patriarchy cuts both ways. Men also have, dealt with a lot of crap because of a patriarchal mindset. So in my books, it's a proudly feminist perspective, and and Abhimanyu, they are proper feminists. So Subhadra is certainly, she doesn't shy away from expressing herself, and it makes sense. It's true to her character, because she's Krishna's sister, she's Arjuna's wife, and she is not afraid to speak her mind. So I really like one scene in the book where she pulls up Duryodhana, Shakuni, Dushasana, and Karna. She pulls them up for what they did. She doesn't give an inch. She says, what you guys did is disgraceful. And Dushasana, she doesn't even bother to address him because she's so filled with contempt. And Abhimanyu reflects her values. He's very much his mother's son. And in the epic, if you notice, they are all referred to by their mother's names. So Karna is called Radeya, and the Pandavas are called the Kaunteyas. It's like that. All of them, Bhishma is called Gangeya, because they reflect maternal values. And, we have a very proud tradition of goddess worship. So it's about returning to the roots, reclaiming the narrative. So in my books, I feel I'm not doing anything revolutionary, something anachronistic. For me, it is going back to our roots.
No, but this is a very interesting point that you mentioned, that the characters in the epics are referred to by the mother's name. It's not very well publicized. You see, if you look at the Mahabharata or even the Ramayana, you'll see the slant is towards a patriarchal, narrative by and large. So this is something which you brought out, which I think is really remarkable, and it's a very good interpretation.
And Arjuna is also known as Partha, right? Not many know. Does anyone know why he's called Partha? Partha Saradi is Arjuna's charioteer, Krishna. Why Partha? See, it's all this gets lost in the translation because Kunti was originally known as Pritha. When she was adopted by Kunti Boja, she was known as Kunti. So Pritha is her original name, and Partha is derived from that, his mum's name. So Partha. Arjuna is always referred to as Partha, which is his mum's
I
name.
didn't know that. Thank you.
Ma'am, I know that part means friend. Like I know कि part इसलिए बुलाते थे क्योंकि part means friend.
Sure, why not? See, she's Bhavya, she's my friend. So Partha, exactly, but I'm telling you, this is what everyone thinks because it's not convenient for a lot of people to highlight this part of the epics. That's why I said it got lost in the translation. And when everyone likes to think, see, these epics are set in stone. My grandmother, great grandmother told it to me this way. People don't like it when there's any challenge to the prevailing narrative, which is why I feel it is all the more important to re-examine the epics in light of the present age. We can't just, endorse misogyny, casteism in the name of culture and tradition. That is how you take something beautiful and weaponize it and make it something ugly. The epics themselves are neutral. You can take a lot of good from it, it's in your hands, or you can use it to foster bias. I choose not to be party to that.
Very nice. So I think this really calls for it. Very, very well said. Extremely well said, and I think she's articulated it beautifully. Yeah,
You mentioned that culture should not become a weapon to politicize your own ideas. I think something that came into my mind while reading the book was that if you relate myth to modern times, maybe Abhimanyu serves as a figure for young people who enter into systems they do not fully understand. For example, politics or social systems. So, was that a metaphor that came into your mind while writing this, or do you have any thoughts on such resonance?
Definitely. See, because when I was a little girl, my takeaway from the epic was that a glorious Dharma Yuddha was fought. In fact, I was envious. I thought, imagine they got to live in an age where a war was fought. How boring is my life? Then you become an adult and you realize that in a war there are no victors. You realize that, the cream of a generation was senselessly slaughtered. Abhimanyu, Gatotkacha, and you have to realize the senselessness of it. That little children were sent into battle to be slaughtered. In fact, this was something that came up while I was researching Abhimanyu. You all know Uttra, right? The Abhimanyu's wife's brother. He comes across as this funny character, very young kid. He knows Arjuna as Brihanala, the eunuch, who teaches music and dance, and he says, I'm going to go and fight the Kauravas. My father and my brothers, they've gone to handle a threat at one end of the kingdom. I am strong enough to fight off the Kauravas by myself and all that. And he goes with Arjuna as his charioteer. You know how they changed roles, everybody knows that fun story. And Arjuna single-handedly defeated all of them. This guy was just the charioteer. But what happened to this boy? What happened to this Uttra? I know that he died in Kurukshetra, that he died a warrior's death. That's what they tell you. But when you realize the details of it, no, it was on day one. And this boy has been training under Abhimanyu. He wants to emulate Arjuna. He's just a kid. So he's charging. He's rushing in. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread, right? But I don't want to call him a fool. It's youthful idealism. He was brave and he's taking on a Maharatha from the Kaurava side, and that is Shalya, the uncle of the twins. So he takes on this Maharatha and defeats him in single combat, disarms him. And he's so happy and he raises his bow in triumph. It's like this. He's raising his bow and Shalya picks up a spear and hurls it at him. And he's gone. You can just relate to that, no? I was thinking of myself when I score a basket while playing in college and all, I'll be cheering and running around and I'll forget about the game for a minute. It's such a youthful mistake which you cannot afford on a battlefield. They sell children in there to be slaughtered, and his brother, Shweta Kumar, tries to avenge his death and he's killed by Bhishma. He's taking on Shalya, and Bhishma just weighs the situation. According to the rules, it's when you are engaging someone in single combat, no one else is supposed to interfere. This is what the children are taught, but everyone knows that all is fair in love and war. So Bhishma just quickly weighs the situation. I cannot lose a Maharata to a kid. And he sends a missile, and Shweta Kumar also is dead. So two young boys, day one, they are gone. But the epic just says they went to a warrior's heaven and you're supposed to celebrate it, which is very, very problematic. So these are things which we need to address, and I tried to. And again, on this note, so we had the practice of sati, a very, very dark chapter in Indian history. And now I tried to look at lesser known characters here. So Nakula, Sahadeva, nobody talks much about these two because Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Bhishma hog the limelight. So here I tried to give little more space for these two. And Nakula talks about how painful it is to watch your mother ascend the funeral pyre. And he tells Abhimanyu, it's a very, very evil practice. She should have lived for me. I am there. There are so many of us. Because Nakula was Madri's favorite, Sahadeva was Kunti's favorite. No, so he has these memories from childhood of his very gentle mother, and he watched her die a violent death. So, which is why you have to say it's never okay to celebrate a woman being burnt on the altar of the male ego. Whether you call it sati, whether you call it johar, and you can't say don't talk about time-honored practices, because real world ramifications are there. Sita's Agni Pariksha, she was asked to prove her purity by entering the flames. And today also women are being asked to prove their purity. But we know that fire burns indiscriminately. Fire doesn't care whether you're young, old, good, bad, ugly, boy, man, child, who cares? And then you read it in the newspapers. Dowry harassment case, she was set on fire. And we just dismiss it and we don't think about the roots of the problem. Which is why here again I point out that it's very problematic. It always was.
That's right. I think these are very interesting metaphors which you brought out and, related to the present day world and contemporary life. So that's, I think, anyone should be open.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody would like to say anything, please?
See, the child care and education begins from the day he is conceived in the womb.
Thoda, just close to your.
Hello?
Yeah, I can
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello, hello.
Would you like to do this?
Mic check, yes. So please introduce
See, I am Ramesh Chand Shukla, retired Deputy Director General from Geological Survey of India. See, I want to ask one question, that child care and education begins from the day it is conceived in the womb. And Abhimanyu is a glaring example of it, that he learned many things about. Have you reflected this part of educational things also? And what prevented him to complete his education of Chakravyuh break post his birth?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, sir. I'm glad you asked it because, see, when somebody like Abhimanyu passes away and you are thinking about the senselessness of it, why did this happen to this boy? So I was asking myself why. So when you look deeper, usually all these stories, they have they're part of a bigger picture. So why did Subhadra, usually she was very keen on listening to anything Arjuna had to say about warfare. So why did she doze off just then? What is the point of it? So the reason for it is, according to the epic, Abhimanyu is actually an incarnation of Varchas. He was the son of Chandra, the moon. Okay? And now in the Ramayana, Rama belonged to the Surya Vamsa. Here, all of them on the Kuru throne, they belong to the Chandravamsa. So, when it was decided that Krishna is going to be part of this Dharma Yuddha, he is Vishnu's avatar, all the devas were asked to contribute. And Chandra was told that, see, this is your line, you have to make a significant contribution. He finally reluctantly agreed to let his son Varchas be a part of it. But he said he will not be parted with him for long. So once the line is perpetuated, once the lineage is perpetuated, Abhimanyu's task is fulfilled. You know, so he has to return to his heavenly abode, and that's why, you know, there's usually something to it. It might be a big tragedy for everyone, but he was just returning to his home after his purpose was fulfilled. Hence this, because otherwise he could not have been defeated in straight combat. While he's armed, Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, cannot be defeated, and in fact, a lot of people opined that he was superior to his father.
Yeah.
He was, in fact, they say that Arjuna was very reluctant to fight Bhishma during the first 10 days, and he was playing defense. And Bhishma was making mincemeat of the army because he'd promised 10,000 lives to Duryodhana. And Abhimanyu was the sole factor holding defeat back. And when Drona took charge, Abhimanyu smashed 2 of his battle formation when his father wasn't even there on the battlefield, which is why it was personal for Drona, that he targeted Abhimanyu and he said, I will give you the life of a Maharatha whom they will miss dearly. So, you know, he was someone who was extraordinarily talented, and it took a special set of circumstances to cut his life short.
That's an
Yeah,
interesting.
this is not a question, it's my curiosity rather. You must have read that Shivaji Samant Mrityunjay, where Karna is described as a flawed good man, but a loyal friend. How have you rated Karna in your book?
See, I'm on Team Arjuna. So when I write about Karna, you're not going to hear a sympathetic a note from me. But the thing is, I try to keep it balanced. I'm aware of my bias. I know that I love Arjuna, and therefore I secretly, not so secretly, hate Karna. So I try to be fair to the guy. Flawed, but I can't wrap my head around the fact that this guy couldn't handle rejection. Draupadi rejected him at the Swayamvara. She was awful about it. She should not have, referred to his caste. I understand she was being a jerk, but he was a bigger jerk by suggesting that she be disrobed. I can't wrap my head around that. And then there's the fact that he knew that Abhimanyu was his nephew, and he broke his bow from behind. So these are unforgivable offenses as far as I'm concerned, if you're inclined to be judgy-fudgy about it. So for me, Karna, which is why, but Karna's son here is a very sweet guy. Abhimanyu and Karna, Vrishasena are good friends here. Blood recognizes its own.
Good morning. The Mahabharata is an epic so widely discussed and so widely ingrained into our society that, as you mentioned, everybody already has some set narratives about it. So how do you ensure that the readers welcome your perspective of how you have let the personalities of those characters grow while reading the text and set loose of their previous interpretations?
Okay, so despite what my husband says, I'm not a contrarian just for the sake of it. I'm not just being a contrarian. I'm not trying to unnecessarily provoke, because the Mahabharata is my favorite story in the entire world, and Vedavyasa is my favorite. So my retelling, even if it's subversive, it comes from a place of deep love and affection. I see myself as part of this oral tradition which has been in India long before we were here. It'll be here long after we are gone. It's very humbling. So I'm not really trying to rewrite the book or anything. I am definitely committed to preserving the essence of the original. But as I pointed out, my mom keeps saying you're too opinionated for your own good. But I decided to own it. If I find something problematic, even as a little girl, I used to do it. I used to say, of course, people will get mad. Like you said, they'll get mad if you dare to question the gods. But if I find something irritating, I feel like I have to address it. And besides, I was in a convent school where they tell you that girls should be seen, not heard. Which means, since I'm a contrarian somewhat, I will be heard. I should not, why should my voice be silenced? Even if I'm saying something silly, so what? Let me say it.
Anybody here?
Hello, ma'am. Myself Yashika Paryani. So my question is, I want to know about Parikshit. Like he was Uttara's son and Abhimanyu's son. So I want to know about, like, he was the king. He was the first king after Mahabharat. I want to know about, like, what qualities he possessed. Did he has the qualities of Arjun? Like उसके पास वैसी कुछ था, मतलब जैसे अर्जुन के पास विद्या थी, तीर चलाने, तीर बाण की कला थी उनके पास, वैसा ही क्या परीक्षित के पास भी कुछ ऐसा था?
Parikshit's a very interesting character because it's very hard for a plant to thrive in the shadow of legends. So he grew up in the shadow of his ancestors, but I think like all of us, he did the best with what he was given. He was also, the Mahabharata, everyone is very flawed. So he was also like that. He was not without hubris. He was not without rage issues. He also was quite drunk on power because he took it for granted forever. But he was also a good king in his own way. So that's the thing with Parikshit. No one, and then next to legends like Arjuna and Abhimanyu, I don't see him as lesser than. I see him, sometimes some of us have to grow up in the shadow and there's nothing wrong with that. There's beauty there also, in the shade also. It's okay. Not all of us have to, reach, be towering legends or anything.
Ma'am, I have also listened about this. Like he ब्रह्मास्त्र जो होता है वो उस पे चलाया गया था. Like he was in, जब वो उत्तरा के मतलब भूमि में थे तब उन पे ब्रह्मास्त्र चला गया था एंड वो उन्होंने वो भी सर्वाइव कर लिया था. तो एज उनको रिफ़र करते हैं कि वो वॉरियर थे, जब वो हुए भी नहीं थे तब से ही वे वॉरियर थे क्योंकि उनने ब्रह्मास्त्र सहा था.
Yeah, that's a popular story from the Mahabharata anyway, and it's that story is supposed to bring out the greatness of Krishna, and because people keep saying Krishna was a very cunning, canny, manipulative operator, this is supposed to establish that he was always true to Dharma. Because that's what he says. If I've been true to Dharma, if I haven't uttered a lie, and you might be thinking, wasn't he the butter thief? When his mum asked him, did you steal the butter? He said no. Because see, that's the thing. Fact is fact. But everyone has their version of truth, and it's valid. Because for the little child, that butter belongs to me. I'm hungry anyway, and he had that omniscience. He knows that the first offering goes to God, and he knew he was God. He saw himself as God. And in his case, the God complex was somewhat justified. So, he brings this miracle baby back to life, and that's just part of the legend, Parikshit's legend.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, I just have a query that in the epic, it is highlighted.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So it is highlighted in the epic that there is dharma and there is a son's duty. We have seen that during Duryodhan also, he was disrespected by saying ki andhe ka beta. So, and for Arjun and for Abhimanyu, there was duty to fight for his father. So, is the duty to obey your father or follow your father or dharma bigger in the epic?
Well, Dharma is complicated too. I like to explain this using Bangalore Nagaratnammal's words, okay? Now, Bangalore Nagaratnammal was a Devdasi. All right, and at that time when she very bravely, this was around the time we were fighting for independence, and there was the anti-notch bill being passed, and she was trying to fight for the ancestral rights of the Devdasis. It did have to go. Women were being exploited. There were lots of evils there, so it had to go. But she was trying to retain some of the traditions, and she said something very memorable because at that time, very bravely, she released a book by another Dasi called Muddu Palani. Okay, it was a very bold book, Radhika Santwanam. It's about Radha's aunt telling Krishna how to please a woman. So it was like a Kama Sutra written by women for men. Okay, so very brave book. And when she released that book at great personal cost, the critique was that one prostitute has released the book of another prostitute. And she held her head up and she said, if being chaste is a housewife's dharma, being promiscuous is a prostitute's dharma, and I've been true to my dharma. So I remember thinking that is brilliant. What a woman she must have been. So you stay true to yourself, what feels right to you, and that's what the Mahabharata says. Then no blame, no sin. I don't really look at it in those terms, good, bad, because we are taught to look at it like that. I think it's more complicated, and that is what the epic says. It's complicated.
Yeah, one more question. There is a contention from Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister that, what Krishna was doing with Makhan was simply it was a rebellion against his mama. That we have the first right over this Makhan. Do you agree with the contention?
Yeah, definitely, he was a baby, and if a baby believes in the tooth fairy, you cannot go and Santa Claus, you cannot go and say fact check. Give me a proof that there's tooth fairy, there is Santa Claus. That makes you look ridiculous, not the child. Even Calvin and Hobbes, no, that famous cartoon, is that tiger, is Hobbes a stuffed toy? Or is he a tiger? Calvin sees one thing, everyone else sees something else. Whose version of the truth is true? That's how I see it. It's entirely subjective.
Since we are running out of time, I have one question. That is something I felt in your storytelling was that you never overwhelm the prose with any grandiosity, even when you describe something like the Great War. Yet your prose is very lyrical throughout the book, especially when you describe the relationship between two characters. So is that storytelling technique something natural, or has it developed over time?
See, when it comes to storytelling, I encourage myself not to think at all, not to get in the way. No, I won't tell myself, let's go for high literary merit. Let's strive for that. I stay out of the way. I just surrender to the process. There's a certain flow state you enter. It makes me sound like a pompous ass. But after all the research I do and all that, I love the research. And I work hard, I take extensive handwritten notes, so it's meditative for me. It's like I'm preparing myself for the writing process, and that's entirely immersive, and I'm very happy to stay out of the way and surrender to the flow and just let it happen. It might not, you know what Bernard Shaw said, write drunk and edit sober, which is not an endorsement for excessive alcohol consumption. I'm just saying, just write, just let it come out of you, and then edit, and shape it up.
Right. I think this has really been a marvelous session. We discussed the book on Abhimanyu, but I think Anuja also gave another perspective and her views, which I think have also enlightened us all. So it's been a really remarkable session. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And please read the book.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a deeply engaging and reflective discussion that was. This session reminded us that mythological stories are not relics of the past, they are living narratives that continue to shape how we understand courage, loss, inheritance, and choice. A warm round of applause once again for Anuja Chandramouli, Anita Sharma, and Bhavya Singh for bringing such clarity to this timeless story. To honor our distinguished guests, I would now like to invite Raghav Chandra sir, a founding member of the Society for Culture and Environment.
He is the director. That's okay. Any questions?
Questions are done, sir.
The stairs have come this way. Huh? The stairs have come.
Okay.
This is the special BLF 2026 memento. The legendary Padma Shri Durga Bai created this artwork specifically for BLF 2026. It depicts little Gorlaya, a story of devotion. A tiny bird, loved by Bhangsu, is transformed by the tribal god Buridev into a beautiful maiden. Bringing joy to him and his struggling family, it is a beautiful symbol of how nature and humanity are intertwined. Just like the conversation we heard today. Thank you to our speakers for their insights and interpretations. And thank you, Bhopal, for being such an attentive audience. We will see you at the next session.